We may just wait a few minutes. Hopefully, Commissioner or Councilmember Coleman will join us very shortly.
He was in the waiting room, Commissioner Zemke. So
Oh, is he joining us now?
there we go.
Okay. Very good. Okay, I guess we're all here, so we can start this liaison committee meeting or subcommittee meeting between the city of South San Francisco and the San Mateo County Harbor District. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Councilmember Flores,
Present.
Councilmember Coleman. Councilmember Coleman, we can't hear you.
I'm not sure I see him on the list yet here.
I can see him. Oh,
He
he just did a,
Yeah, he just typed into the chat, present, figuring out an audio issue, he says.
Oh, okay. As long as he can hear us. Okay, we're going to go on to public comments. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address a comment or concern that is not on the agenda. Melanie, do we have anybody from the public?
Yes, we have John Olam.
Okay, is he interested in making a comment?
Go ahead, John, you'll be able to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Adden. Well, as when you guys take a look at things today, you need to understand the real situation and how today is the day where it should be put to rest. The Harbor District simply cannot afford to run both the Marina and the Pillar Point. They don't have the funds. You can see this by looking at the status of the facilities that exist out in South San Francisco. The status there isn't much worse or better than the status of facilities over at Pillar Point. The Harbor District is millions, tens of millions of dollars behind in infrastructure upkeep. Its board has been warned about this through multiple years, multiple accountants, that they simply are losing because they're not covering the depreciation of their assets. And that's the same thing that's happened out at Oyster Point. You guys can try squeezing it out of the Harbor District, but they simply do not have the money. In fact, they do not even have the money to meet the original commitments that they made to you. If you were asked them to just sign off on just that, just pay the original commitments that they made and take out this inflation thing, they still couldn't do it. They simply don't have the money, and no one will acknowledge this. Staff has tried. They have forced the Harbor District to face the issues that are at Pillar Point, but there is no money if they keep just doing half-assed job at both harbors and the harbor and the marina. It's really important that you guys face this fact. You can continue to ignore it for years, and I know I'm going past my time limit, and I'll sign off in a second. But this is so obvious what the problem is. The deal doesn't work. It's never going to work. There's nothing you can do to fix it. There's not enough grant money. There's not enough applications, not enough applicators. I apologize for going late. I hope you guys will face the reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Moving on to the discussion items. I understand that the minutes are not prepared yet, so we'll put those off till the next meeting. Moving on to item number 2, it's the update of the Harbor District's capital improvement program at Oyster Point Marina. Jim, I believe this is yours.
Do we want to call for public comment specifically on this issue, Commissioner Zemke?
We could do it now, or do you want to do it after your presentation?
We can do it after. That's also a viable option.
Yeah, why don't we do it then?
Fantastic. Again, good afternoon, everybody. Commissioner Zemke, Commissioner Matoush, council members, Coleman and Council Member Lohman, welcome to the meeting, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to hear about the Harbor District's CIP program. I'm going to share my screen, and right now, if I can find it, and hopefully work it out properly. Okay, Commissioner Zemke, do you have a slide on your screen that says San Mateo County Harbor District?
Yes, I see it.
Fantastic. The technology.
Yeah,
This summarizes the staff report that was submitted to the committee earlier this week or last week or Friday. I'm not sure which day it was put out. But it's both written in that further detail, but this will summarize it. Again, why is the Harbor District involved with Oyster Point Marina? It's the San Mateo County Harbor District operates that marina under an agreement with the city of South San Francisco. The agreement currently enforces the 2018 agreement. Under that agreement, which also incorporates the 2011 and 2017 agreements, the Harbor District is obligated to complete certain capital improvement projects. The projects that are required by the agreement include the replacement of docks 12, 13, and 14, the replacement of docks 1 through 6, reconfigure entrance ramps for docks 1 through 6 and dock 11, and allowed by the agreement but not required is the opportunity for the district to build a 40,000 square foot commercial building and then also benefit from the revenues built by that by the building. So the first project is the replacement of docks 12, 13, and 14. Dock 11 was replaced a few years ago, and it is a modern concrete dock. The ramp needs to be replaced to meet ADA requirements and to address sea level rise issues. But this is docks 12, 13, and 14, as you can see in the square. The requirement is that the Harbor District replace docks 12 through 14 by December 31st, 2024, and that the district at its sole cost and expense is responsible for such replacement, including the ramps. The concern was, or issue is that at the signing of the 2018 agreement, both the district and the city estimated the cost to replace all 3 docks to be $5 million. Today's estimate, based on the architect's estimate, is $18,701,317, which, when we take into account the original $5 million, this budget shortfall for the district is $8,701,317. Docks 12 through 14 in the master plan for the district is defined as a tier 1 project and is on the top of our priority list to complete. The design, engineering, and permitting is at 75% right now. Cost to date has been $701,317, and we'll be ready for to send out requests for bids in November of this year. However, that's pending funding of the docks. The issue with docks 12 through 14, as you can clearly see, is the district cannot meet that obligation by December 31st, 2024 to replace the docks 12 through 14 with its current funding levels, with a shortfall of $8.7 million. The second project that's required by the agreement is the docks 1 through 6, survey and replacement. And you'll see docks 1 through 6 again in the green square there. The requirement by the 2018 agreement is the district conducts a material condition survey by December 31st, 2023. And then if the survey recommends replacement, the general manager must take it to the harbor board meeting and request funding for that replacement of said docks. The construction costs to replace docks 1 through 6 has skyrocketed. The original working estimate was $12 million. Today's estimate is closer to $28 million and a budget shortfall for the district of $28 million. In the 2022 master plan, the replacement of docks 1 through 6 is defined as a tier 4 project due to its lack of funding, limited number of people who benefit. It's not open to the public. It's just to those who use the docks. The design and engineering and permitting, we haven't started yet. The survey required by December 31st, 2023, the district has approved the funding and budgeted for it and will meet that deadline for the survey. However, a recent condition survey conducted in the development of our master plan, the docks were rated to be in serious and poor condition. I thought it was important for all of us to see what those definitions of poor and serious were. Poor is widespread advanced deterioration or overstressing has been observed. We can service it with minor loss of structural capacity, and repairs are recommended with moderate priority or urgency. A rating of serious, advanced deterioration or overstressing observed, significant loss of capacity with local failures if possible, repairs are recommended with high priority and urgency. So the docks are falling apart. The district did not anticipate at the signing of the 2018 agreement that the cost of the docks replacement and dredging would increase by such a significant amount. The district has not budgeted for, nor does the district have, $28 million to complete this project. The next project is docks 1 through 6 and dock 11, replacement of the ramps that service those docks. Right in the picture, you see docks 1 and 2 going to the ramp or landing there on the left of your screen, and then in the middle is docks 3 and 4, and then on the right-hand side is 5 and 6. The concern, as you can see in the photo, is the current landings flood as a result of sea level rise and or landfill subsidence. These flooding events happened 6 to 8 times a year during king tide events. Under the 2018 agreement, the district's responsible for the operation, maintenance, and replacement of docks 1 through 6 and the ramps leading to said docks. The city, under the 2018 agreement, is responsible to protect the landing areas of the docks against flooding caused by sea level rise and or landside subsidence. And they've met that obligation by raising the bay trail several feet above estimated sea level rise estimates. But our dock landings are still down at the original elevation because the Oyster Point development did not raise the land side all the way to the water's edge. The project was not expected or planned as a separate project prior to signing of the 2018 agreement. And the master plan for 2022 for the district again, has defined this as a tier 1 project, very high priority for the district. The design and engineering for this project is at 75%. The district integrated the design into the dock replacements for 12 through 14. Estimated cost to repair the landings or move the landings up to the Bay Trail is $1,391,800. And then the replacement of the ramps were not defined as a project in the budgetary process, thus no funds are budgeted or available for this project right now. The cost and shortfalls for these projects on single page for docks 12, 13, and 14, again, it's $8,701,000. 1 through 6 is 28 million, and then the ramps is 1.3 million. So a total funding shortfall for these 3 required projects, if required to meet the deadlines, is $38,093,117. Now, it's not all gloom. There is revenue opportunities and cost reductions that can benefit the district at Oyster Point Marina. The agreement allows us to build that 40,000 square foot commercial building. Slip fees and occupancy rates and opportunities to raise those, and then staffing levels and hours of operation. We'll start out with the 40,000 square foot commercial building. The picture there is just for demonstration. And again, the agreement, the 2011 agreement is recognized by both the city and the district in the 2018 agreement. As such, the 2011 agreement provides the city will lease to the district for $1 per year, an area large enough for the district to build a 40,000 square foot building based on a 2-story building. Section 7.2, the 2011 agreement, says the same thing. So, but the specific thing here is the lease shall terminate November 11th, 2026. By the time we get the permit design and permitting completed, it will be 2020 or 2026. So it'd be no benefit for the district to build it unless we can amend that date. The area in which the agreement said we can build the building with concurrence with South San Francisco is the area marked in that purple color, which is right next to where a hotel is intended to be built and above the current yacht club and district operations shed. The other opportunity we have is slip fees and occupancy rates. The district has been maintaining a 75% occupancy rate. With 408 slips at 75%, we average about 102 empty slips at any one time. And the average rate is $274.50 a slip. And if we were able to get 100%, the district would be able to increase their revenues by $335,000 a year. However, maintaining 100% occupancy is unrealistic. The district's goal should be higher than that. And at 85%, if we could maintain at 85%, we'd be able to increase the number of slips that are occupied by 28, and then increase our revenues by $92,000 a year. So with the Oyster Point development coming to completion at the Oyster Point Marina area, more and more people we're hoping will want to come back to the marina, as many people left due to the construction and the dust and everything that landed on their boats. So we're pretty optimistic we'll be able to increase that. And then if we ever get the docks built, we'll increase it even further. And then finally, the staffing levels and hours of operation. Oyster Point Marina is a small boat marina Not all smoke boat marinas are staffed 24 hours a day. Separate security provided by Harbor District may not be necessary for 24 hours a day anymore. When the construction was going on, it was a very remote location on the backside of a construction site, and very few people came back there except for people that are on their boats or getting to their boats, or people that may not be up doing the correct thing back there with car break-ins and other things. So we've had a security guard there overnight, and we staffed it to 10 p.m. with deputy harbor masters. We may be looking at limiting those hours with a potential savings of $336,000 a year. Barring any questions, that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have any questions? Or maybe before we get to questions, we'll open it to public comment. Melanie, do you know if there are any public comments out there?
Yes, there's two. I will start with Sabrina Brennan.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. Couple things to think about, especially for city council members. The marina largely benefits wealthy white men. It does not benefit the citizens of South San Francisco. It never has, and it likely never will. This is not a great use of public funds. It doesn't provide the type of resources for a diverse community in San Mateo County that Pillar Point Harbor does. Plus, there's issues like sea level rise and the fact that the project site that's been proposed is located on a landfill. So there's a lot of complicated issues there. And I don't believe that section of the landfill has been corrected yet, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe we can get some clarification on that. That'd be helpful. And I'm talking about the building that was proposed in the presentation that we just heard. My suggestion is that the marina is decommissioned. There is no need for a marina in this location. There are marinas on either side along the bay. It's always had an occupancy problem consistently throughout time. It's never been anywhere close to maximum occupancy. It's a money loser and a waste of public funds. The sooner it can be decommissioned, the better. And I think what you really ought to be talking about is the cost to decommission the marina and remove the docks. Thank you. Focus on transit, focus on the ferry. That's where your priority ought to be. Public transit, ferry terminal, access for the public. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Do we have another public comment? Melanie?
Yep, hold on a moment. John Olam.
Thank you, Ms. Haddon. Well, that pretty much made it clear. There's a reason why the situation is the way it is, and I think you all understand it. The Harbor District is overextended. Mr. Matoush and Ms. Cheng Karali promised way too much back in 2018. It's just not going to work. The Harbor District should remember it is an enterprise district, and that everything it does, short of maybe rescue and search and rescue operations out at Oyster Point, should be considered enterprise operations. Yet the Harbor District is subsidizing South San Francisco's marina and has been for 50 years. It's never worked. It's not going to work. The best thing you can do is to acknowledge that this situation is untenable, that the Harbor District is never going to have enough money to maintain both facilities properly. And in fact, things are only going to get harder. There's no reason to believe that we're not about to enter a serious, or not to believe that we're not going to enter a serious recession. Already housing prices are dropping dramatically. People are not nearly as rich as they thought they were. The whole idea behind much of the expansion and rebuilding out at the harbor was based on the notion you were going to have 60-foot yachts out there. And that was the plan, to make money off of that and make it work. And of course, we haven't even addressed the issue. You still do not have a refueling facility out there, which was noted to be a problem more than a year ago. You're not even discussing it. Folks, please, just, show some leadership, face the facts. It's a bad deal. It simply cannot work. And so it needs to be ditched and start over. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is that it for public comments?
Yeah, no more public comment.
Okay, I guess we can open that to commissioner and city council member comments, questions, concerns. Oh, I see Tom's hand raised there.
I probably could have found the other little knobber to get
Button,
the
yeah.
yellow hand. But anyway, let's see. I'm off mute. I'd like to request somehow that we start looking for funds in the tune of around $45 to $50 million to have South San Francisco invest in the project to kind of bring some of these things to fruition.
Any other thoughts out there?
I'd like to, through the chair, just kind of back up a little bit in terms of where we're at with these numbers and seeing these were the three kind of recommendations for potential funding revenue. Are there others that we have considered or not considered in relation to being able to bring about these funds to meet these needs?
Jim, could you kind of review some of the avenues we've looked at for outside funding?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Commissioner Flores, Council Member Flores, thank you for the question. We've looked at several different grant opportunities, but a marina doesn't do well when competing for grant opportunities. And we have not been able to receive any grants for that support. The other things we looked at was, what other commercial opportunities can we have in there besides just rentals for slips? And that's why the commercial building, I think, is important. That brings in, will bring in some additional revenue for the Harbor District. But again, it goes to the date of expiration is 2026. And we'll need to agree on a date that goes out further than that before the district, it makes sense for the district to build that building to recoup the funds it would cost to build the building. But other than that, the district used to receive substantial funding through the key or through leases. I can't remember, the King leases, I think they were called. But all that with the Oyster Point development, those leases have been taken back, and we no longer have that avenue of resources coming in from the commercial leases. And then dock 9 and 10 were removed for the ferry project, and all those slips and revenues for those slips are not being generated right now because they've been removed. So it's at Oyster Point has been challenged for financing and grant money, and the lot of our slip owners are not necessarily wealthy and cannot absorb additional increases in slip fees.
Thank you for that, Mr. Pruitt. I just, the wording on that, I mean, agreements are agreements, right? And I understand there's a global pandemic that has happened since 2018, and initial agreements had been put forth. But my question is, it was stated there that in the agreement, they did not anticipate the rising costs, which to me is a little concerning, because whenever you get into large projects, infrastructure projects, projects of this nature, near water, there will always be additional costs, additional challenges, financial challenges. So I'm kind of puzzled by the fact that these were not anticipated as stated there in the presentation. The other
I
comment.
concur with you.
Go ahead.
I concur with your statement, and I believe a rise in cost was anticipated, but not the such a skyrocketing, going from 12 million to 28 million, 5 million to 18 million. That significant jump in cost was not anticipated.
The other point I wanted to ask is, do we have numbers or data in terms of, you mentioned the staff hours and the reduction of that as a potential avenue to look at numbers and decrease costs. Do we have data that can back that up, that it is safer at certain times of the night or dawn or daybreak, et cetera? And what makes us rely that that's not a necessity any longer?
The thinking behind not being a necessity more that it's more open to the public. There'll be more patrols back there now because all the streets are open, and South San Francisco police have started patrolling that area. Back when the construction was going on, it was basically a closed off area, and the only security or police presence back there at that time was a contract security guard. But now the area is wide open, as opposed to being secluded, and the roads coming in are much more open and cannot be controlled by a single security guard. So, and then the increased police patrols at night, and then on top of that, all our docks are gated, and you have to have a key to get into the docks. So only our residents and boat users will be able to get in.
That's the questions I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I could add a few things. Thank you. First, the earlier agreement and the original JPA from 1977 formed the basis of where we are today. When we redid the agreement, it was recognized that a separate source of revenue beyond dock rentals would be necessary, and that's where the 40,000 square feet came in. And I do agree with the general manager that extension of that date to some distant future date so that they could recoup whatever capitalization is required to build that would be a good idea. I'm not sure why that date was chosen to start with. But the idea was that would be some sort of fishing village a la Long Beach, and with all of the development there, the hotel that's still moving forward, conceptually that would bring in quite a bit of money once that is done, but that is a number of years into the future. As to the replacement of the docks, I'm happy to work with the general manager to try to find a way forward. I would be hesitant to recommend any city funding, but if we can explore other avenues of funding, be it state or federal, we can try that. There was a business study done. That study is probably 5 years old at this point, that said that the operation is self-sustaining if you are able to get the occupancy up with higher quality docks. You may be able to charge a little higher fees, and of course with Ferry Village or some other commercial opportunity out there, it becomes a very viable operation. It's a question of how to get from where we are to that end state where that might happen. So I know one of the issues I'd like some comment on today is the deadlines for replacing the docks. They are in the written agreement. They were negotiated and voted on by both bodies. And do we entertain extending those so that we can continue working on a funding solution for this? So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think of maybe with the exception of Tom Matoush, everybody on the screen, I've been here the longest and have the most institutional knowledge. That's not saying a whole lot for an agreement that went back to 1977. No. So happy to explain where we got to. I will say, I think to someone's comment, this is not a marina full of yachts servicing rich old white men. And we've certainly learned that dealing with the residents at Oyster Cove around the corner, which boat slips at less than $300 a month. It's definitely servicing a very ordinary type of boater, and especially for the liveaboards, it's about the cheapest affordable housing you can get in the Bay Area. So just wanted to add those few comments. We are looking for some direction on amendment potentially to the operating agreement, both as to the deadlines for the docks and the commercial space. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Would it, I guess, maybe make sense to think about a date extension of, say, 5 years to give us maybe the breathing room we need? I know, Jim, you're also looking at the fact that some of these docks do have deterioration issues that we can't really put off forever, but do you think a 5-year extension would work?
I think that would give us enough breathing room to see where we can get. But yeah, it's going to be hard to locate this funding, or difficult, and the 5 years would definitely give us enough time to work together to see if any funding is out there.
Yeah.
For the commercial building, that's going to be the 5-year extension would be too small.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the extending that agreement out possibly to the end of the current agreement plus extensions.
Through the chair, I think there's a hand up.
Was there? Oh. Is that your hand there, Tom?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Tom.
I just wanted to share with the group that I was an invited participant to a federal fisheries conference in Washington, D.C. And I can't tell you how excited I was when the first things out of the lead presenter's mouth early in the morning were talking about the IIJA. And he's telling all of us fishermen and all kinds of different people with recreational angling that under the IIJA, they were promising us billions for boat ramps. I'll tell you, by the first break, I was all over that, and they introduced me to the federal person who is doling out the money, and I got her contact information. I sent her a note saying that the San Mateo County Harbor District needed $200 million. Well, it's been vetted through a number of federal groups now, and what they said is, well, we didn't realize we were misspeaking. So what it was is there's billions for harbors around the country, but they're the ones that have unload freight and do absolute major things, and to try and electrify vehicles, ships, the forklifts, things like that. In the meantime, I've talked to both of our federal senators. I've talked to state senators. I've talked to some Congress people and assembly people, and I've brought up this problem with the IIJA. So that I think the way the thing was written from the beginning is they intended to do good, but if you look at the majority of the harbors throughout the entire state of California, none of them are eligible for the billions and billions that they were promising for boat ramps. So I, for one, am just trying to talk to elected officials to see, is there a way to change this just a little bit, or how can we get funding? We've got two organizations together working on the Oyster Point Marina, and we could seriously use some of this Infrastructure and Jobs Act money. But at the present time, the way that was written, we're not eligible. So if somebody had some ideas above and beyond what I've been doing, or maybe it just takes more people, but I've been trying to get this changed. So it's just one direction I was taking. The other thing is, as Mike points out, about 5 years ago, I think South San Francisco put out was it the Anchor QEA or something? But it was a very well-written piece. Well, 5 years ago is a long time, and the entire universe has changed with COVID. So one thing, I hate to talk about wasting money, but could we do a post-COVID mutually funded business case for an update? And I'm not proposing that right now, but I think that it'd be nice to discuss at one of our future meetings and just see, let's get something done. Commissioner Zemke and myself were down at Oyster Point Marina today, and we were seeing all the improvements that have been made and how everything looks now. And we're both very impressed and talked to people. You know, granted, there's a lot of work done with all that construction. I didn't realize that was an office building and not the hotel that was going up behind. Now I see that the hotel hasn't been started. But how can we work together and bring in this type of money that we both desperately need?
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Commissioner Zemke, you have two members of the public that would like to speak. I don't know when you wanted to let them speak.
Okay, are there any other commissioners or council members that would like to talk right now?
Through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Councilman Coleman.
Yeah, this presentation was rather concerning. I think it would be helpful if next time the presentation was shared with the members of the board and the council prior to the meeting, so that we could look through it and maybe potentially ask some questions before. Where did, you know, something that, I mean, $5 million, $18 million, 12 to 28. I mean, this isn't just inflation. What went wrong when first, I mean, I wasn't here in 2018, but what went wrong in 2018? What changed that made those projections skyrocket so much?
I asked the engineering, or through the chair, I asked the engineering firm who's doing the design and engineering for us that same question. And it's not, you're correct, it's not just inflation per se, but the labor market is tight, they said. It's costing more. The equipment is, the raw materials to make the equipment are in very short supply. And it's a premium price just to buy the docks now. The materials to build the docks, the aluminum to build the ramps are all in short supply. And making everything we buy from bolts to ramps very, very expensive and a much higher price on the overall project.
Right, I think it might be helpful if we could have a detailed study on that, if that could be provided to the council.
Okay. Is that something that you could do, Jim?
I can ask the contractor to prepare a paper on that.
Okay, thanks.
Through the chair, I had one more kind of comment
Okay.
clarification, and I'll point to our city manager and perhaps our city attorney of how much we can, I guess it is public. Since our council unanimously approved the Ensemble Hotel move forward there. Mike, if you could speak a little bit about the safety of that space and what we've done as a council to ensure that that area there will be viable?
Sure, as has been mentioned, that area is a landfill. So there are really three bodies of work taking place out there. One is the Kilroy development, a portion of which is on top of the landfill. But they have also opened the landfill. This happened several years ago, reconditioned the landfill cap to bring it up to current environmental standards, and have then closed that landfill again. So that really set the landfill up for success, if you will, into the future. Number two is the hotel itself, and several years of design and many sessions with council were held to look at the safety features that would come to the hotel. First, they will drive some ungodly number of pilings all the way down to bedrock. But the entire site will sit on what I would basically say is a methane collection system, because a landfill has the risk of developing methane, and then a system that would go outside the skin of the hotel and then up. And that has been done in concert with the regulatory agency that regulates the landfill. So that developer has been working with the regional water quality board, who has the principal role there, as well as San Mateo County Health Department, to make sure that a 400-room 5-star hotel would be exceedingly safe there from everything that's going on. That project is moving forward despite the economy. They have voiced that they believe, since it won't be built and open for probably 4 years, that by then hopefully we're beyond COVID-19 and hotels are doing what they did before the pandemic. And that land sale will officially close by the end of the year. The third thing that's happening is the city is investing a great deal of money into that area called the Spit. As has, I think was shown on a slide, the developer Kilroy has protected a great deal of that area from sea level rise all the way up to that protrusion we call the Spit. The city is investing millions right now and has a design that's been presented to council to stop the flooding at that area. And I think there were some pictures of that earlier. So those are the three bodies of work that are happening out there that would improve the area and make working in and around a closed landfill actually successful.
Thank you. Appreciate that information.
Okay, any other council members would like to make a comment? Melanie, why don't we take the public comments at this time?
Okay, Sabrina Brand.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This is really bringing it all back. I remember when the current agreement was up for consideration by the board. FYI, I did not vote for that. I opposed it. But sadly, it is what you guys are working with today. You can kick the can down the road for 5 years or whatever you guys come up with. But as we know, sea level rise projections are only going to increase. So in 5 years, who knows? Also, it was mentioned by Mike that Oyster Cove has a diverse group of people living within the 10% allotted amount of, I don't know if they have 10% or less liveaboards, but just so you know, you can't go above 10% liveaboards on San Francisco Bay. And that is a rule or policy from BCDC. So there may be some people that are in need of housing that are living within the 10% at Oyster Cove, but that has really no bearing on Oyster Point Marina. And the way that it's been set up in the development in recent times, I think the plan was to try to attract more wealthy white men with their large yachts. And that's why larger slips were put in to attract people with money so that they could afford the slip fees and not face eviction, which often happens in marinas. So as far as like the request for more information coming from city council members, that makes sense. I certainly would want that if I were you guys. There should be a survey to look at demographics and look at who this marina is actually serving. I think that's really important information. I think it should be evaluated. How many city residents are actually benefiting from the marina? So I hope you'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. We had another public comment, Melanie.
Oh, sorry about that. John Olem.
Okay, John.
Thank you, Ms. Haddon. Well, I'm not sure. This is a case where you would, if it was a football game, you would yell out, "What game are the referees watching?" Did you not hear what you have? A $50 million shortfall. 50 million. And I don't think Mr. Pruitt is lying to you. That's the amount of money that needs to be found that does not exist. It's been made clear to you, because of the status of this being a marina being managed as an enterprise operation by another agency, grant funding isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. And putting it off for 5 more years is only going to result in another meeting in 5 years where they will put it off for yet another 5 years. As Mr. Pruitt can tell you, he read a statement from a report from 1990 that stated the exact same problems that the Harbor District is currently experiencing out at Pillar Point Harbor, and demanding that they be dealt with immediately because someone was going to get hurt. And as Mr. Pruitt pointed out, 32 years later, nothing had changed. Nothing had been fixed. The exact same set of conditions existed. There is no reason for any of you to expect this to get better. To the 2 city council members from South San Francisco, I really thought you guys had your act together. I thought you were a little bit more intelligent than the average politician and a little bit more thoughtful. But did you not hear what they told you? You are $50 million short, that it takes decades upon decades of just revenue being totally applied to just that shortage for the Harbor District to get that $50 million.
Thank you, John. Any further comments?
Just like to point out the similarities between Emeryville and Oyster Point. You have Marina, you have hotels, you have buildings that are all existing, and there's, as City Manager Petrell has mentioned, and we've discussed in the past, there's a number of marinas, hotels, and buildings that are built on fill, so it's not an indeterminable thing. It can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we need here, and perhaps the city should collaborate with the Harbor Commission, is a report on financial feasibility. I know Mike talked about, the city manager talked about a new hotel being there. Maybe that could bring in some new revenue, but I really do want to see a full report, a full study. I don't want to kick this can down the line for 5 years. I want to see a report to see if this is going to be financially able to survive. That's something that needs to be done.
Yeah. I personally think that it's probably premature to think about options like decommissioning the harbor. In my mind, I think there's an awful lot of parties out there that would not want to see the marina go away. And that's just not the boat owners. I think it's anybody that uses the Bay Trail, businesses around the current marina and so on. I guess it kind of says, how do we get there? And I know Mike had suggested kind of the staff putting their heads together and looking at potentially those interested parties, not to say that that's where the money's going to come from, but to try and figure out how do we move forward, because decommissioning is not an easy task either. So maybe, I don't know, if Jim and Mike can get together and maybe start tackling some of those tough questions.
I can support that, Mr. Chair, as well. The other point that I do want to look at the numbers of actual residents. You know, the city is committed to supporting our Oyster Cove liverboard residents, but I want to also be able to see, not necessarily if it's done through a survey, but I would like some more information through just, I don't know if it's a census or getting just more detailed information on who are those slip renters. Perhaps Mr. Pruitt, you have that information already, I'm not sure, but to try to look at the facts, I think that's also important to Councilmember Coleman's point too, before we make any extensions or anything of that nature. We certainly don't want to displace or create a displacement crisis in both marinas at any point in time, as that is concerning, as we are committed to increasing and supporting the availability of housing opportunities and options, and not creating situations where individuals will be homeless. And thank you, Commissioner Matoush, for that perspective. I do agree. You know, we have a lot of competition for the larger harbors. We are not a significant, you know, manufacturing harbor at that level. So yeah, the federal funds are probably focusing on those round of grant tiers and funding, and we're probably not at that high level. So that puts things into perspective as well.
Okay, any other comments? Jim, do you have any thoughts? Silent.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. I guess what I need is a clear direction from the board or the committee on which direction they would like the city manager and I to go. Right now, I heard a request for a census, a feasibility study, and more information on why the project jumped from 5 million to 18 million, and bring that back to the committee before any extensions or changes to the operating agreement could be discussed.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would kind of add to that, and I'm not suggesting we necessarily try to go out and canvas, you know, other interested parties, but to try and figure out, you know, if we really can't come up with the money, there are going to be a lot of people concerned, you know, business owners and people with property around the marina. It does add a certain ambiance to the setting. And they're obviously going to be interested parties. Like I said, I don't want to get them concerned, but they may be something that we do need to tap into in the future.
I do also believe, besides the 5 million going to 18, I believe there was a request, I don't remember, as Councilman Flores or Coleman, the cost increases, the 28 mil and some of the other cost overruns or cost increases.
Yes.
To the chair, if I may ask a question about
Yeah, oh yes, go ahead, Mike.
the feasibility study. So the city did sponsor an economic feasibility study prior to the renewal of the previous operating agreement. So a little history: in 1977, the city and the Harbor District entered into I believe, a 50-year agreement that the Harbor District would operate rent-free this piece of landfill and the marina and all of that. As the date approached for the conclusion of that, studies were conducted on the best approach, one of which was an economic analysis. And then based on these studies, City Council did vote in 2018 to renew what was called a JPA, is now called an operating agreement. So we can pull that study, and I can contact the individuals of the company that did that study to see if they can do an update on the economic viability of the marina, and what should take place in order that it become on a more secure financial footing. I don't know, however, if the Harbor District will split the cost of that or how we'll pay for that, because I'm certain it will be in the order of $5,000 to $10,000. But I just don't want to leave it lying there undiscussed, or some implication that the city's going to pay the full freight on that, I would hope.
Right. Tom, you're on our finance committee, but I don't think that splitting the cost on a study like that would be an obstacle for the district.
I agree. But I think that just like when City Manager Petrell says he'll contact the people, when we say 10,000, we don't know what they're going to say yet. So let's put some flesh on that animal.
Yes.
Thank you for those comments, and Commissioner Matoush, absolutely understand, but it does provide a warm introduction for Jim and I to have that discussion, so it's not quite as awkward.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, Jim, is there any other direction you think that we could give you?
You're on mute.
Oh, no, I don't
No,
think so.
I was on mute.
Oh, Jim is.
Are we interested, is the committee interested in setting a timetable for this, or when the city manager and I get it done and bring it back?
Well, I don't know. Was this something that you could do within, say, 3 months or so?
I think the economic study will take longer than that.
Okay. So we would have another liaison committee in 6 months. Do you think that's realistic?
I think it depends on where the economy is going to be post-COVID and as we're coming out of these things. Because right now we haven't got businesses coming back to 5 days a week. There's a lot of things in the COVID era that have changed. And personally, I don't see things back to normal in 6 months. And I'd hate to spend 10,000 on a study just to say, hey, we got to spend 10,000 on another study because now things are coming back.
I wonder, is there a way that the study could look at, say, several different scenarios of, some range of, I kind of hate to go too far out, because then, it gets to the point of, I don't really want to kick this can down the road forever either.
Right. I agree. I'm pretty sure that these firms that do this for a living, I'm sure that there could be some middle ground there where we're not too far off, but we're not also evaluating just the current state of the pandemic.
Right. So is that maybe a realistic target then, to say, shoot for that that analysis in 6 months?
I think that is a good target. And then if we're not going to hit that target, we'll definitely re-engage with the committee.
Okay.
Unless Mike has different thoughts.
No, I think that's fine.
Works for you
Do
too,
our
Mike?
best.
Very good. Okay, is there any other thing that we can beat to death on this subject? Okay, if not, let's move on to the third item on the agenda, which is the update on the closure of Oyster Cove Marina. Mike, I think this is yours.
I will kick it off. If we could promote a couple of folks, Ernesto Lucera and Karina Lazo as well. I'll ask them to give their update. But if you're not aware, Oyster Cove Marina, which is located just around the corner from Oyster Point Marina, is closing effective October 15th. So some 2 months ago, the owner of that privately held marina, which is Kilroy Realty, provided notice to the approximately 140 boaters there that effective October 15th, they're closing and they need to be gone. That has created many problems for those boaters beyond just the inconvenience of moving your boat. So City Council and others have heard from many in that marina about the struggles that they have. They do have 14 who are legal liveaboards, meaning they have the permit from BCDC, as was mentioned earlier. There's a limit on those. However, it is abundantly clear that there were plenty of people living full-time on their boats. And I think that is a common occurrence at marinas, despite the best effort to enforce that. And we have heard from a lot of those folks. So the individual stories range from this is easy, I just moved my boat somewhere else, all the way to people crying and really having severe emotional breakdown at the prospect of losing what is for them their home. So we have stepped in. As to the legal liveaboards, Kilroy has offered them $10,000 cash, the ability to live rent free there till October 15th. And for all boaters, they have offered that they will transport their boat for free if necessary. If they choose not to sail their boat to wherever they're going, they will pull it out and haul it to the new marina for you. I think there's also some discussion about boat disposal for those people that decide, I just don't want this boat anymore. What do you do with it? So they're working through that. Because of the human toll that this has taken, we have had caseworkers from the city down there for the last 2 weeks, meeting one-on-one with the remaining boaters to understand their situation, understand the barriers that they face in moving, and then working with them to remove those barriers. We've also engaged the social service agencies from both the county and the city, which is the YMCA for us, because some folks may also get some benefit there. So that's where we stand. We are talking with Kilroy. We've asked them to extend the October 15th deadline. And there may be some options there, although to date, they haven't officially said they would do that, and instead are pushing that folks should make a plan and execute the plan to be gone by October 15th. It is my understanding that Kilroy will remove the marina and will just no longer be in the marina business. Been asked many times, well, what are they going to do next? Nothing has been submitted to the city on what they might do next. But again, I'm not sure we would see that first. BCDC is the regulatory agency here. And if there's a filing on what they might do next, it would probably go there first. So I'm not sure. The rumor is they will open a commuter ferry terminal. But to date, that's just a rumor. So if I could ask Ernesto Lucera.
Okay, Ernesto,
I see Ernesto in the attendees, and Karina Lazo.
okay, hold on a second.
Promote those two. And then Ernesto, perhaps you can give oh, he's got his hand up.
Okay, Ernesto, and what was the other name?
Karina Lazo,
Okay.
Corina.
Yep, Karina. There they are. I
Great.
see Karina and I do not see.
Ernesto's already in, so he's
Oh,
good.
there we go. Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon.
But before we start, I'm sorry, I should mention, Jim and I have discussed this issue. And to the extent that we can legally allow people to move over to Oyster Point Marina from Oyster Cove, Jim has said that that would be fine. The issue, of course, is that BCDC limit. So there is an issue or an effort underway at BCDC to request an emergency authorization to allow additional liveaboards at Oyster Point. But at least the strategy being that you've got 14 liveaboards on Oyster Cove. Can't you at least take those 14 permits and move them around the corner temporarily? You are not increasing the number of liveaboards that you have today, and that may provide some relief. So Jim and I have talked about that, and I am grateful for the help that Jim has offered. So sorry, Ernesto, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. So Ernesto Lucero, I'm the acting deputy director with economic and community development with the city. Also joined by Karina Lazo. She's a management analyst in our housing division. So we've been really boots on the ground, as Mike had mentioned, in the past couple of weeks, really trying to connect with anybody that's affected at the marina, at the Oyster Cove Marina. We're meeting people at their boats, at our Economic Advancement Center, over Zoom, over phone calls. The needs are pretty diverse, as Mike mentioned. So some are looking at locating to other marinas in the region. Some are looking to look at permanent housing. So any way we can connect them to the appropriate resources. The city has also connected, like Mike mentioned, with County Human Services. We're just setting up a meeting shortly with them just to build a coalition of diverse group of resources, Veterans Affairs resources, anything that we can assist with. And so far, you know, we have not met with everybody yet. So this is also a call to anybody on this call, the public that is affected, to please contact us. 650-829-6620 is our office number, and we're here to help. So please let us know. We also partnering with the YMCA, as Mike had mentioned, and any resources that we can provide. We have, you know, if we can find them a location, we could also connect some of the liveaboards to our rental assistance program or some other housing rental assistance programs that are kind of in the pipeline. So that's our message, and we love to connect with everybody at this point.
And I think that's the end of our report. Just an update on what's happening around the corner with the marina next door, unless there are certainly questions.
Okay. Melanie, do we have any public comments on this item?
Yes, we have two public comments.
Okay.
John Olam.
Just a quick note to Mr. Lucero. Unfortunately, the city of South San Francisco did not see fit to notice this meeting. So all those people you're hoping might be watching and might reach out to you, they have no way of knowing about this meeting unless they happen to be an inside baseball person like me or Sabrina, who doesn't have anything better to do today and knows about the Harbor District. So I'm wondering why the city of South San Francisco would choose not to notice this meeting, and would like you to all know that Kilroy is the group that you signed up with, that you went out of your way to help give breaks to so they could buy that development from somebody else. So it's on you. You helped Kilroy get there, and you're now finding out what Kilroy is really about. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Melanie, was there another public comment?
Yes, hold on, please. Sabrina Brennan.
Thank you. I didn't know that a marina was closing nearby, so this is interesting to me. The Harbor District has been dealing with issues around liveaboards for many decades. And one of the things that can happen is sometimes people who are having a hard time making it financially and can't afford Bay Area housing on land will find a very, very cheap boat that's not been well maintained, and they'll move into it. This happens all the time in marinas all over the place. And often those families can't afford to maintain the boat because boats are very, very expensive. This is why every marina needs to require that there be inspections of each vessel on a regular basis. And I'm talking at least annually, once a year. Each vessel should be inspected to make sure that it's operational. It's not safe to have a vessel at a marina that is not operational. I don't know exactly what's going on at Oyster Cove, but it sounds like you've probably got some vessels that are not operational, that are essentially floating junk that people are living in. And I hope that you will do everything you can to facilitate those families finding real housing, housing on land, housing with a bathroom, housing with a kitchen, housing with rooms to sleep in. They deserve to have that. They deserve to be assisted with some low-income housing. Moving their floating junk over to another marina is not the solution. They need to have permanent low-income to extremely low-income housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, did we have any comments or questions from the council members or commissioners that we have? Okay, hearing none, I guess. Mike, thank you for the presentation. That brings us to the end of the items. Is there anything else that anyone would like to state before we close the meeting? Okay, I would just like to thank both Jim and Mike for all their efforts on doing the background for this meeting and preparing for it. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Coleman,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Mathush,
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke.
Yes. Okay, that concludes our meeting, and hope everybody has a safe afternoon.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
We'll see you guys.
Bye.